Hey, my name's Ollie from the Meta Project, and today I want to walk you through the 3 biggest misconceptions of getting in shape over 40. We've worked with over 1,600 clients one-on-one now, where we've seen all of the obstacles, all the misconceptions, all of the obstacles holding them back. And today I want to go through the 3 most common ones that I think are most detrimental and most common that really start to get in the way of you looking and feeling your best, feeling like you're not seeing your body responding no matter how much effort you're putting into the nutrition and the exercise and all of the stuff that comes along with that. Why is your body not working? So the first one I want to touch on is an awareness of eating less, and simply the idea of I've been adding in these foods here and there. I've had the Pop-Tarts, I've had the lollies, I've had the ice cream. I've gone a little bit overboard and I need to reel it back. Now that is a very normal process of trying to get our body back on track, but the process of, okay, I'm now going to go on a diet, I'm now going to eat less, I'm going to focus on moving down to smaller portions straight away, is a misguided process of what the first step needs to be. And one of the big things that we focus on with our clients, and the observation I've had from this, is that a lot of our clients actually end up eating more. They're not eating enough, and this is where a lot of these cravings come through, where a lot of the sugar cravings come through, is because predominantly our diet is made up a lot of carbohydrates. We're made up with really refined foods, and our body is constantly looking for a way to get some nutrients into our diet. So starting with quality of food and simply how do I feel is such a good place to start, because most of us are not listening to how we feel on the foods we eat. And if we are, we're not gathering that data enough to make the shifts in what makes us feel good more often. So going through that awareness of how can I make sure that commonly I increase my protein, or I'm having a more diverse range of colors and nutrients in my food rather than simply counting calories, that allows us to work in a space of fueling that body. When we look through such a narrow lens of simply eating less and training more, we're looking through the classic input and output rather than how that body as a whole is really functioning. And I think that's a really, really key shift and missing what and how that body really functions. All right. So the first one, rather than eating less, focus on quality of food and how do I feel on those foods so I can feel good more often. The second one that we dive into is awareness of adding in more exercise, right? So that's the other aspect of the equation. I'm eating less, now I'm going to train harder. And we usually lean towards adding in more runs or more cardio and really just trying to get more of a sweat. Now, the trouble is we tend to, and regularly we see this happen, people mistaking activity for results or for moving forward, right? I've put all this effort in, why am I not getting the results? Now, the trouble with something like running, for example, is not to mention the fact that we're probably damaging our joints and we haven't strengthened muscles around our knees, so it's not a long-term strategy. We tend to notice that over time it becomes less and less of a fat burning activity. Meaning, in the first couple of months, it's brand new. We're contracting all these muscles. We're probably a little bit sore, and we can drop some body fat because we can see that it's a very novel new stimulus to the body. Now, over the course of 4 to 6, maybe 8 weeks, we'll start to notice this really slowing down. Now, without us increasing the distance, and we start doing 5Ks and 10K runs, we start to go faster and longer with these runs. Unless we continue to extend that goalpost, and ultimately the more time that we spend towards the activity, we start to notice that we can't drop nearly as much body fat, if at all. So ultimately what happens is we get to a point where we get better and better at doing the activity, i.e. more efficient at running, but we don't get better at dropping body fat. In fact, we get less efficient at dropping body fat. Now, I'll tell you why. The biggest thing when we're working through and we're running is our body is initially really inefficient. We run maybe a bit more sway, we have longer strides, our body's getting used to this new movement that we haven't done at this sort of controlled focus for that amount of time. Once we get used to running 3K or whatever it might be, then our body simply starts getting more efficient at doing that. We can start to get faster, but in the process, we're not contracting muscles as much, right? Whereas alternatively, if we look at weight training, we'll notice that people that are brand new to weight training, we start to contract all the muscles, we kind of move a couple of things around, we need to work on that stability base. But as we get better at weight training, we notice that we get better at contracting muscles, we get better at isolating muscles, which means that for the same 30-minute activity, if we go for a run, we started off burning body fat, but as we do it more often, we get less and less effective. And in that same 30-minute period for weight training, we'll notice we get more and more effective because we get better and better at contracting muscles, right? One is contracting more muscles more efficiently. One is contracting more muscles more inefficiently, which is more effective, right? Really shift in mindset around making sure that our biggest opportunity to drop and burn more body fat is to make sure that we contract more muscles. Now, if our focus is on simply bouncing around more rather than contracting more, it is a massive discrepancy between simply mistaking activity for results. All right. When we start to look at weight training being not only beneficial from that fat loss aspect, but also an anchor to make sure that joints are stable and strong so we can do those other activities we want to do, I think it starts to become a bit of a win-win. Now, number 3 is a really important one, and I've become obsessed with the space of behavioral design. I started off obsessing about exercise, then I dived into nutrition and gut health space, and now it's really understanding behavioral design. And what does this look like to make sure we can achieve results long term? It's all well and good having the motivation to do it for 2 weeks, but how can I make sure this is something that sticks, that we really enjoy long term, and is becoming a cornerstone of our energy, being productive, having a good mood through the day, comes back to making sure we can do it consistent. So the biggest thing that we see come through in my observation of this is that many of us that struggle in the health space tend to be all or nothing people, all right? And I've done these surveys inside of our community, and I'd say it's about 95% of our clients are in the all or nothing category. Now, what that allows for in a corporate business workspace is that the more effort you put in, the more you get out, and you work harder and harder, you get the promotion, you get the job deal, you get whatever that is, and that can be fantastic in that space. If you apply that same mindset to health, you notice that it can be really detrimental very quickly, because we're in the failure business, and ultimately the less we fail more often, the better it is. It's not about smashing the perfect workout or smashing the perfect nutrition plan one off time. It's about how can we make sure that we stay on plan more often, right? How do we make sure that we're not robotic about it, but that we can make those fluid adjustments of being flexible with what are our non-negotiables daily? What are the things that we can chip away today that we maybe indulge, but we don't overindulge? There's a significant difference, because the person that stays on track is the person that has the one beer and really enjoys it and carries on. The person that doesn't move forward is the one that's been perfect all week, really built up that rubber band, and then as soon as that first beer is in hand, it now becomes 16, right? And I think taking the time to find that balance of staying on track more often starts from that place of trying to do everything perfect. And when we can start to focus on raising the floor rather than shooting for the ceiling every day, we simply are hitting that 80% more often rather than trying to hit the 110% once. All right. So where that comes from, and one thing I really want to inject into the end of this conversation, is the most resilient people are the ones that are most self-compassionate. If you go through and you make a mistake, how do you talk to yourself in that particular scenario? If you mess up on something, it's like, oh God, you did it again, dickhead, right? Or is it, that was not how it was supposed to turn out. Whoops, I'm going to try to learn from that next time. Or you laugh at yourself and you're like, that's, that's silly that I did that. That's all right, we'll do it next time, right? Are you talking to someone that you'd be ashamed to hear someone else talk to you, you talk to yourself like that? Or would it be how you talk to a friend, right? There's a significant difference in your consistency from that approach simply by how you talk to yourself. And talking about mental chatter, internal mental chatter, is an area that I think is massively overlooked in the space of health and ultimately success in every area. You can achieve things, but are you enjoying that in the process? Are you consistent with this long term? Is this coming from a place of self-compassion, or is it coming from a place of hate? And I'll be very real with you. Many people in the health space start because they are finally sick of how they look and feel. So it comes from a place of hate. It comes from a place of pain. If you want this to be maintainable long term, it has to shift over to a place of self-compassion. Not what you looked like 20 years ago, but how do you want to look, feel, and function in 6 months from now? Who does that person look like? I can't get you back to the 20-year-old you, but I can find the new 45, 55-year-old version of you that's leaving the kids in the dust, is energetic and has a high mood every day and is proud of looking in the mirror, right? That's the kind of stuff that allows you to look through the lens of compassion, allows you to be more resilient, allows you to be more consistent, and is focused not on perfection every day to prove something, but more about how doing those small things in your morning routine, for example, allow you to show up better in the day. And I think that's a really special space that when you reach it allows you to make this more consistent long term and a lot more enjoyable. So I hope those 3 were beneficial, just running through my observations and working with thousands of clients at this point now, and just understanding the most detrimental 3 misconceptions that I think get in the way, specifically for over 40s, 40 to 50, where things are not working like they used to. We feel like we're working against our body. And if we start with those self-compassionate shifts, working on chipping away of finding the new baseline and working with our body, knowing that things like breaking down muscle tissue, insulin sensitivity, and many other cellular functions are very different to what they used to be. So we really want to focus on priding ourselves on relevant information to where you are right now. If this was helpful, whether you're watching this on Facebook, YouTube, or podcast, please hit like or let me know that you like this video, or share it with a friend that you think it would be relevant with. There's so many people working really, really hard and getting no results out of their exercise or nutrition adjustments that this video might be a nice way to start. So if you can share that, that would be incredible. And I hope you have an incredible week.